Welcome to Turn Extension, a supplemental podcast for the Advanced Maneuvers YouTube channel.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Turn Extension. My name is Tony, or Polar Bear Cub on the forums.
Hey everybody, it's Kevin Deldark on the forums.
And Devin, Cutthroat Cure on the forums.
And we want to welcome you guys back. So first off, let's start with any news and announcements.
So there's actually a big announcement that just came out from the Privateer Press podcast that they just had this week, which was that they are releasing, and we saw spoilers from this for a couple of the people who grabbed shots at Lock and Load, of the evolution of the Journeyman named casters. So we're talking about people like Jakes or Andre from Khador or Horgel from Trolls. The Journeyman Warcasters are now full-fledged casters, so they will be their own casters for the game, and they're releasing the Warmachine Journeyman casters, or now casters, at Gen Con, and they will be releasing the Hordes versions like Horgel at Warmachine weekend. So if you're going to those events or you have friends to go to the events, if you want to get those casters early, make sure that you get somebody to pick it up or ninja it for you at that con, because they're going to be available then, and who knows when their actual release date's going to be.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, they are also going to be available online that weekend, is what they said in the forums, on the forums. But if anyone has ever tried to order stuff like that on the forum, on the Protectorate Press website during that time frame, just be careful, because stuff tends to not go through all the time.
Which is really weird, because they've always had this thing where they did convention releases and you either had to attend the event or have a ninja shopping. Could this be a change in the way Privateer Press does their pre-releases, and what impact will that have on local gaming store sales?
So I think it depends on what type of model it is, because obviously you couldn't buy them online if you... a lot of the other stuff that released are like Black 13th or the Rifleman Gunmage Corps, a lot of not Gunmage Corps, the Rifleman Gun Mages, a lot of that stuff wasn't able to be ordered online. But I think it was certain things like the 10-year anniversary or Haley 3. Those things were allowed to be purchased online. So I think it's going to be specifically anything that is limited edition.
Personally, I think on that they were having too many issues with people grabbing a whole bunch and then selling them for astronomical pricing afterwards, that it probably just was easier for them to allow them to be sold online so that everybody had access to it, instead of a lot of complaints that, hey, they're getting gouged for things that they didn't have the ability to get because they weren't in a certain location.
Yep.
All right. Any other news announcements?
So I wanted to throw a quick shout out to all of the people that commented and started some really strong discussions on last week's podcast. We really enjoyed getting to see a lot of people's opinions, and even though some of the conversations got really in depth and had some real, disagreeing opinions, it still was kept real clean, so I want to thank everybody for that. I also want to let Ian Sturgis know, if he did not see it, that this last Friday we did release a fort report, so go and check that out.
All right. What else do we got?
Well, one of the things that I wanted to kind of see about us addressing, and this is kind of a broad topic, so it may be a scenario that is going to take up to two podcasts to do, since we only do 30 minutes, is with the change of this all-new war and with everything that's going on, a lot of people are talking about, jacks. We get jacks, we've got all these new jacks and their power-ups, and for the most part, Hordes players are kind of used to a world of beasts and all that, but Privateer Press did something to improve some of the infantry that were... A lot of attention in this all-new war, this new edition, has been driven towards jacks and stuff like that. But what about the units? Like, there hasn't been a lot of strong conversations around what are some of the units that got changed, or due to the way that the edition changed have gotten stronger. What are those units that you're going to probably see regularly on the table?
I guess for this, let's just start off with the good old Privateer Press order. So I'll start off with Cygnar.
Yeah, I was
Sound
going to say, I'm sure you have no problems following the Privateer Press Border since you're a fanboy of the very first army.
Heck yeah, I am. So for me, I think initially, what I feel like we're going to see a lot of still is the Tempest Blazers. So Tempest Blazers, they still are ridiculously high speed, a speed 9. They still have the range 10, rat 7. The only real negative thing that happened to them was they went from a defense 15 to a 14, which is probably more realistic. Defense 15 was always really, really high, so bringing them down to a 14 made them a little bit more manageable. But they still get the brutal damage. They still have Electro Leap, so brutal damage, they can hit harder. Electro Leap, they can take out, multiple people that are higher defense, low armor, and then if they really want to, they have Ward Breaker to gain blast on their weapons, which I don't think you're really going to see Ward Breaker come out too often, but I think those two, and I mean, for the full unit, it's only 18 points. It's not horribly expensive.
So I hear you on that, and I kind of agree to some extent. Like, I remember Tempest Blazers, or as we commonly refer to them around here as murder ponies, were pretty strong and pretty heavy in Mark II. I kind of want to throw the fence over to another of the cavalry groups within Cygnar, and that's the Storm Lances.
Mm-hmm.
You gave me my first experience to Storm Lances when we were at Lock and Load, and just the concept of the rules that they've had changed with cavalry. The fact that they hit so much harder now when they go in on their charges, and you've got the electro leaping that they still have available to them. I just feel like between the combination of impact attacks and the changes to cavalry, the fact that they now have not reform. Yeah, no, reform, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, they have reform. Yep. Yeah. So they used to only have like reform with Striker 3, but now they get reform all the time.
Yeah. So you've got reach, you've got reform, you've got new cavalry rules, you've got electro leap. You've got new casters like Striker or not new casters, the Bethmatics, Striker, all of them just turn them up to 11. I honestly feel like Storm Lances are going to be seen regularly in Cygnar lists. And in a scenario where you go to a tournament and there's 2 lists, I feel like it's a safe bet to say that Storm Lances will be in one of those lists.
I agree. I mean, I do see myself putting them in lists significantly more than what I ever did.
Okay, so I'm going to disagree with both of you guys, and I'm going to say that the unit I feel that we're going to see the most of is actually going to be mechanics, just because they're the real heroes of the field. With so many jacks coming out and everybody focusing on jacks, I think making sure those jacks are in tip-top shape are actually going to be like a changing factor. I also maybe think that I want to go with mechanics because I don't want to see any of those other units that you guys discussed.
Okay.
So with that covering kind of Cygnar, and I think mechanics will probably be a quick grab for a lot of people. Protectorate is a little different. Here's the thing about Protectorate. Protectorate was already a really, really good Jack faction. And then Mark III kind of tuned that, there's a lot of people who were missing about the fact that a lot of the Protectorate Jacks didn't necessarily change too much. Even though they had I think it was the Crusader chassis got an increase on its mat to 6. For me, I still feel like, and they were kind of faction defining back in Mark II, but I still feel like Choir are going to be there, and they're going to be in every list. In a game that's pushing jacks, you're always going to be taking a unit that increases jacks, even from the standpoint of not being able to shoot the jacks, not being able to spell the jacks. And yes, you don't have the +2 Mat Rat because you've lost that in the battle. You still have the +2 to damage, though. And there are jacks who love the concept of having +2 more, Redeemers being a prime example of that. So as much as people are frustrated with the change to Choir, I still think that you're going to be taking Choir. Like, I don't think Choir were changed enough where there's ever a situation where, like, am I going to take Choir or am I not? If you've got jacks in your list, you're taking at a minimum a min unit of Choir.
I mean, I can definitely agree with Choir. I think they've always been strong, and I think they continue to be strong. Another unit I definitely feel like we're going to see a lot on the field is going to be the Daughters. I hate acrobatics. They just seem to jump through everything. So when you have a large line of jacks that might be blocking your path or beasts, I think Daughters are really good at getting back there, killing some solos, and threatening your caster. So I think they're definitely going to be an issue.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if we're going to see the Choir way too much. I don't know. Just all of the negative feedback I've heard about them, I don't think that's going to be a thing. But I do agree that I hate the Daughters. I hated the Daughters of Mark 1. I hated the Daughters of Mark 2. I know I'm going to hate the Daughters again in Mark 3. The fact that they still have acrobatics, they have atomical precision, which is something that's going to get past any type of armor, especially all my Cygnar arcane shielded stuff. I'm not looking forward to the Daughters at all. That's definitely a unit not happy.
I mean, you don't have to worry about them too much because you can shoot them, right? Oh, wait.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. If I have siege, I can shoot them pretty well.
And they have a really low defense of never mind.
Yeah. So, well, their defense is the one thing I'm not as concerned about. But I mean, the stealth from it's just. I don't have my gun mages anymore. I don't have my pretty gun mages that can see through stealth.
You have your gun mages?
None so I can see through stealth.
Oh, well, yeah. Welcome to the regular world where we don't have units that shoot stealth off with ease.
Yeah, that's not nice. We were fair and balanced. It was the Fox News of Warmachine, okay?
Yes, the unbiased Fox News of Warmachine.
Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely think outside of Cygnar, everybody's going to still have an issue. Like Cygnar is still going to have an issue because, if they're focusing on those Daughters, then that means that they're not focusing on the solos and they're not focusing on the caster and they're not focusing on everything else, which is exactly what you want them to do. If you're not having them kill key components that are behind their lines, you want them to be a distraction. You want them to put as much focus into trying to kill that unit so the rest of your stuff can get into position. So I definitely feel like Daughters are the way to go with Protectorate. But other than Protectorate, and speaking of really strong lines, let's talk about Khador. In Khador, I think we're already saying that we're going to see a lot of heavy armored jacks, but let's talk about the big boys of the bunch and the Man of Wars, which with the changes in Mark III, I think we're going to definitely see a lot more of.
So I think we're going to see more of the, as much as we see already, is the Kazi Assassins. The defense went down, which does suck, but they still have stealth. They're crazy fast. And at speed 6 with a defense 13, they're not horribly expensive. Atomical precision and gang. I think overall they're a pretty good unit.
So I'm going to disagree with both of you vehemently. The Man of Wars, they got a lot of changes. I won't argue that point. They're one of the units that have to keep 8, and they've got shield wall and all that stuff. And you may see them every once in a while. You got the new captain coming out and stuff like that. But I don't see it. Like, I really don't. They are so expensive for such limited attacks, and they are not fast. They are not getting in the gauge. They're a lot of people are like, well, they're the new warders, and I couldn't disagree more. They are not warders. They're not even close to what warders used to be, pre-nerfed warders, obviously. They're not going to get their points back. I mean, you're going to get a situation where it's like, I'm going to spend over 20 points for a Man of War unit with the captain. Yeah, I'm putting a ton of work in. Are you likely going to get those points back? No, not even close. And the issue that I have with Kayazi is that back in Mark II, Kayazi was the defense skew. Like, it was I'm going to shove Kayazi in your face with Duelist, and they're going to survive for days. I don't see that. I don't see that happening anymore. I think they're a lot easier for you to get them off the table with their lower defense because they basically have T-shirt saves. If you can hit them, they're just going to fold over like paper, and they are a lot easier to hit now. And again, I think it's a scenario where you're not going to get the point values out of them. Now, I will take Eliminators out of that equation because Eliminators are a more focused unit of Kayazi. They did keep a higher defense. They do have the stealth. They have the ability for all the things that you hate about daughters, even though there's only 2 of them. So I'll take them out of the equation. I think you'll see eliminators, but I don't think you'll actually see the units of Kayazi just because that defense was what kept them around. And without it, I don't see them getting played that often. I do see a lot of people playing with Widowmakers, so I think it's a really easy grab to go Widowmakers because a lot of people are doing the sniper package of Widowmakers and the solo and Kel Balok and all these other things that kind of, they're not a unit per se, but everybody seems to take them as a unit. But the one that I do end up seeing, and I think is probably going to, I really want to say Widowmakers, I really, really do. But I think the winner out in Khador is going to be the Rifle Corps. The fact that they got better, they didn't have a huge, they didn't really have anything in the way of a price hike to match the fact that they got better. The fact that they were given the ability to take Rocketeers, what the hell? Like, why in the world would you ever take regular Winter Guard when you can take Rifle Corps and get the freaking weapon attachments anyways? Like, is the grape shot really that important? Because if so, let me introduce you to Outriders who have a spray that's better. I'm like, Jesus, PP, what the hell were you thinking when you did this? And it's showing because the community as a whole is putting Rifle Corps across the board. Like, I'm almost terrified that Rifle Corps have an FAQ target on their back waiting for the next 6 months to hit, and they're going to be next in line to get something happen to them because they're so damn good. And when you throw Joe on the equation and he gives you for the Motherland and all the other buffs that he does, holy crap, this unit is amazing.
Those are pretty good points. All right, so next. Oh, wait, no. Devin has
dissenting
something?
opinion.
No, I definitely see. I am going to come back on the Man of Wars just because I definitely believe that even with their price increase, as a conversation we were having the other day, you're going to see so much scenario play. Like, nobody wants to play just a game without scenarios, and they're going to have such a strong scenario presence where once they get someplace, you are not going to remove them. I mean, you have to make that decision of, do I put all of my damage into a Jack who has tons of armor and is still coming across the field, or do I put it into these lesser armored but still just as strong unit that's going to sit in an area and be really hard to remove? Like, it makes your opponent really have to choose their target, and I think that's where they're going to win. Now, I will definitely agree Widowmakers are super good, and they're going to be able to remove some important things. So, but I definitely think, I'm just telling people, don't disregard those Man of Wars, especially with the new UA coming.
All right, so next we get to talk about Cryx. So I am going to talk about a brand new unit that's going to come out. I think they're going to be an absolute pain in the ass, and that's the Styx's Gun Mages. There's only 3 in the unit, but they have 2 shots each, and they have feedback at range, and that's stupid. In a game where, especially in an edition where they are pushing for more jacks on the table, if you can roll, can you bring 2 units of them? Let me look. Yeah, you can bring 2 units of them so let's throw 14 points for 2 units. That's 12 shots. They're range 10. Thank God that faction doesn't have snipe. But they're rot 6. So rot 6, you're going to be hitting almost every single jack in the game. You could do potentially up to 12 points of damage to a caster in 1 turn.
Didn't you hear Iacos has snipe? In his new upgrade, he gets snipe?
He does not have snipe in his new upgrade.
No, but I wanted you to sweat some bullets right there for a second.
The only reason why I know that is because they did an RMA or R&R or whatever Reddit thing with what's his name? One of the
Jason Souls.
Yeah, with Jason Souls, and he talked about sniping Cryx and how it just melted things halfway across the table. So no snipe. So there, Kevin, there.
I'm just saying, you're going to be eating crow when they get sniped.
I'm going to flip a table and probably punch your baby.
Continuing with feedback, how about any Statixis in general? I mean, you're going to see feedback for days, and so the unit I'm going to suggest is going to be Raiders. I know in our most recent Store Wars events that both the Cryx players that we had there were both playing Raiders, and they were playing them aplenty. And when Butcher gets killed without ever having someone enter into his melee range, that's something to worry about.
Butcher doesn't die. That's a farce. That's a lie. That's propaganda put out by the Cygnar and, a propaganda machine to say that Khador is evil and can actually be killed. That's wrong.
Good thing Cygnar doesn't have that feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God. Fucking Black 13th or gun mages with feedback.
Don't bring up Black 13. That's just throwing salt in the wounds.
News announcement, everybody. Cygnar doesn't have something that someone else has.
Yeah, I know. For once, they don't get all
upsetting. It's the worst day ever.
So I hear you on the Statixis thing, and it definitely helps with the whole, they've got defense going for them and stuff like that. And yes, feedback is an issue. But I think that the lean on or any sort of design around a Cryx Statixis skew will just end up resulting in what they had in Mark II, which is, is there Cryx in this tournament? I guess I better have an answer for statistics. It's statistics, right? Statistics Raiders.
That math.
But so I think it's going to be a scenario of that may be a metaphor Cryx, but it's going to be one that will just end up becoming, do you have an answer for Raiders in your list? Yes? Okay, then no worry about Cryx. And this may become as a bias because I played them when they were a contract in Mercenaries. I think that the change to Cephalix Overlords, or Cephalix in general getting stealth, and Overlords particularly getting stealth, I'm not too terribly thrilled about the fact that the Overlords lost the ability to spray without line of sight. But I think that the ability of having a three-man unit with really strong magical sprays that can basically advance up 6, spray out 8, they are stealth, so you're going to get to apply them when you want to, where you want to. I'm probably going to be the dissenting opinion here, but I think it's really strong, especially for the fact that they're a hot 8 points. So if you think about them from a perspective of being, instead of a unit of 3, they were 3 solos with that ability, you're getting a free solo because most solos are 4 points to begin with. So an 8-point unit that gets 3 sprays, basically running a 14-inch threat range to spray out your dudes. They're Magic 7. They come with influence, so if you want to go ahead and bring your your Trollkin champions with their weapon attacks, influence a Trollkin to punch a fellow Trollkin in the side and the back. You're not going to necessarily leverage the Drudge veteran leadership ability because Drudges. But I think they're a solid unit, and I think they have a lot of place, especially in a world where Cryx, I've been looking at a Gorshade 1 list where he basically gets, stealth for an entire battle group. You get an entire battle group with stealth, you get some 2 units overlords with stealth, and all of a sudden your opponent's like, shit, what do I shoot?
I don't know. I'm still on the fence with that. I really think that you're going to see a lot more with the feedback. Feedback is just, you don't have to target the caster. The Jack's going to be forward. I don't know how many games I saw where we're playing so Jack heavy now, where beforehand you only had to deal with maybe 1 Jack. Now you have to deal with 3 to 4 different Jacks that are going to be shot at.
Yeah, and I think that gunning for a caster in ways that doesn't actually require you to go, go try and melee the caster in the face is definitely going to be on the rise. The Retribution for me, one of the bigger ones that comes out of Retribution, they were extremely strong in Mark II, and I think with the changes of how overboosting on your power field works and all that stuff, the fact that you can't stack armor anymore, they necessarily weren't paying attention to focus to begin with, but I don't know. I feel like Mage Hunter Strike Forces are still extremely strong. And it's even jacked up even higher when you have a scenario where now this faction has access to Deadeye. Again, this is the same frustration I have when it comes to the Rifle Corps. PP, what the hell were you thinking, giving them access to Deadeye? you're just going to have situations where all of those low armor casters are going to be desperate to, to try and survive a hail of arrows that come shooting at them underneath Deadeye and Mini Feet. It's not quite Snipe Feet Go, but it feels just as bad.
I'm going to keep my comments on that to myself.
Well, if you don't think it's Mage Hunters, what do you think it is going to be in Retribution? What's their strong unit to lean on?
I think it's going to be Sentinels all day long. I think that being POW 12, Reach, Weapon Masters that can move around a lot, they have access to a lot of things. They're cheap in points. As I said, once again, I'm basing a lot of this on things that I've seen recently, and with MK3 being out not as long, not that long, at this last tournament that I hosted, we saw 2 Ret players, and both of them had them in their lists. And everybody who played against them were just like, that is disgusting. Like, why have I never heard of this unit before? So Ret players should rejoice because Sentinels are here to stay.
All right, so with my thing, I'm actually going to use a partisan unit. I'm actually looking at the Nis Hunters for them. The fact that they're going to have access to Snipe there, and they're going to be able to help out with just being able to charge in with their Nis Claymores, 1-inch reach. I think overall they're going to be a great unit. They have Hunter as well. I think Nis are awesome, and the fact that Rec can actually get them as a partisan unit now, start putting their friendly faction stuff on it, is super helpful.
So I have to interject in here just because there's something that bothers me, and something that really irritates me is that Ret got Nis as a partisan unit, but Trolls did not get Boom Howler as a partisan unit. Explain that to me.
Because fluff-wise, technically, I think that Boom Howler is still on the outs with the Trolls. Because at least I know in Mark 1, he couldn't even work for them at all because they fucking hated him. So
still, Nis make no sense in Ret for me.
They're
not even the same race.
They have elf ears.
See, I'm with Devin on this one. Like I used to play Trolls, and it made no sense. Like when Partisan came out and they were like, Partisan this, Partisan that, I was like, sweet, Boom Howlers are going to finally, like, they've taken away the tier list, and to make up for it, you're still going to be able to play Family Reunion because Gregor Boom Howlers is going to be a Partisan. You'll still be able to put your Boom Howlers, and they'll be in faction. This is awesome. This is great. And, the nerf to tough, maybe it's a kind of a little kind of side, hey, here you go, Troll players. Here's a tough unit that doesn't fall over.
Half your other units that don't fall over because of tough? Champions?
Yeah, we used to have all of them be able to tough all the time. Now with this, we have less of them be able to, like, you're getting less Trolls that get to toughed over and over again. It's not like it was in the past where every unit can tough over and over again. So give us the champs, give us the Rune Shapers, give us Boom Howler. Like, put them in faction. Christ, they're Trollkins. And yeah, I know that from a story perspective, they were quote unquote on the outs, but they're still Sons of Brag.
Even if they just made them Partisan Northkin, something like that, because you're going to have so many Troll players that the only reason they ever bought Boom Howlers in general was to play them in Family Reunion. Family Reunion is now gone now. We have access to tough and Troll models as far as the eye can see. That's one unit that, to us, it doesn't really matter as much because they don't really have that stick, because they don't get affected by our multitude of solos and in-faction abilities and buffs. And so there's not really much of a reason to play them. So seeing them as non-partisan really kind of upset me. And when I saw, as I said, Nis, they're partisan, and I was like scratching my head, and then I was like so excited, and I rushed over, and I thought maybe it was just an issue because when I looked at the leaked cards, I noticed that wasn't on there, and then when I looked at the actual official cards and I noticed it still wasn't there, I was really upset.
So I feel like we should table this conversation for another time talking about partisans, because we do have a lot to say, but we still have 2 more factions to get through, and we are going to be long on time tonight.
I agree.
So, what's the next faction?
That would be your favorite toy, the Convergence.
Yes, the Convergence. So, Convergence. I think the unit you're going to see the most is going to be Angels. Angels are still speed 7. They advance deploy. They're defense 14, and they're going to be the unit that's going to be taking out solos. There's only 3 of them. But they also have a reposition at 3, so they're going to get in there deep into your lines. They can combine range, I think, still. I think it's still combined range. Give me 1 second as I pull it up. Yep, so they can combine range. So that boosts them up. If all 3 of them are shooting, boosts them up to a rat 8, power plus strength, power 13 on the shot. Or they can charge in for power 12 and remove solos. I think overall they're going to be the units you use to scalpel things out.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess I can see that. I guess my only thing is, that being a three person unit, that so I looked at Convergence, and one of the big things that was a shift for Convergence was the fact of how the new rules for returning models or resurrecting models changed. And a lot of people were looking at the fact of, what am I supposed to do with all of my Enigma Foundries? Because when I return an Obstructor back to play, it now has to sacrifice its movement or its action because it's not going to be able to do anything. Or I think actually, is it just its action?
It has to move. Sacrifice his action, so he can't attack. He can't
attack. He's going to only be able to move.
Yep.
So it becomes a situation where a lot of people are like, crap, like I can't just have people kill 12 of my not obstructors. What are is the obstructors the one hit point?
Yep.
Guys? Okay.
Yep.
Because it becomes a scenario where you're not going to be able to get the value that you used to out of them. But with that being said, the Enigma Foundries still have the repair ability. Like, my first reaction was almost going towards the direction of Optifex Directive, just because, similar to with the Cygnar argument about the fact that they are going to they just auto repair. There is no roll, there is no check. They just repair automatically, and all the other kind of choir-esque buffs that they do. That was pretty strong, but I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about both what the Enigma Foundry can repair and also what the Optifex Directive can repair, and my eyes fell down on the Reciprocators, which for some stupid reason still managed to keep 8 boxes.
They're metal. They're just metal.
And?
Grumpy. Because they're metal.
So not only did they get to keep 8 boxes, they have the shield wall order, so they basically can sit at POW 20 in a zone. So this kind of goes back to the whole, Man of Wars. When you put them in a zone, you're going to have to devote to kill them at 8 boxes for some stupid reason. No, I'm not bitter. So they have all those abilities, not to mention that they have set defense. So if they want to, they can set up for set defense, and you charge them, you're going to be striking them at the equivalency of defense 12, armor 20. But then they turn around and they have an Enigma Foundry behind them that can repair them. So fuck all. Like, this unit's amazing for just sitting in a zone and just telling you, hey, this is my zone, go to hell.
See, I'm going to have to say that where I feel like they're very strong, I'm going to have to go with Tony on this one. I think that the Angels, with their ability to fly, their speed, they're just the capabilities of taking out key components and threatening casters is going to be something serious. And with their, above average defense, they're going to get into places and they're going to have charge lanes that you're not going to expect. And I feel like people are going to throw them in there for flanking or for just getting into that tight-knit situation where they need to take out something important to get the job done.
Freaking 8 boxes. How the hell didn't the trolls keep 8 boxes?
Because nobody likes trolls. All right, last
Preach, brother. Preach, brother. Preach.
Let's do this last faction, then we can wrap up. Mercenaries.
Is it truly a faction, though?
Mercenaries is a faction. Mercenaries is a faction. They used to be just a conglomerate of sub-factions. They're now actually a faction.
I'm just teasing. So I'll start off with Mercs. I think I think the unit we're going to see the most in Mercs is going to be Steelheads in general. Between Acosta and just everything, I know people loved them in MK2. A lot of people own them, and I think that that's not going to change going into MK3.
So, maybe, yeah. I mean, the Nicholas package definitely helps out with the fact that you've got the Steelhead solo that can kind of hide in amongst them. I think I'm going to cop out, and I'm going to follow Tony in a different faction. I'm going to do Silena and the Nis Hunters. I still think they're extremely strong. They're expensive. Please don't get that wrong. They are stupid expensive, but they've got a decent defense. They've got Weapon Masters on now a 1-inch reach sword instead of a 1/2-inch, so they have a greater footprint that they can put down on the table for free strike potentials. But I also think that Hunter plays into it a bit. You know, the fact that they get to ignore cover makes, you know, hunting down things that are trying to hide behind walls in order to stay safe from shooting. The Hunter kind of says, I don't care. Like, you can still shoot and get a lot of work out of them. I will legitimately admit that I struggled to find a Merc unit that I felt was going to be regularly seen. They're all relatively okay and good. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take it back. I know what unit you're going to see a lot of. You're going to see a unit of Nomads underneath Bart. That's the unit you're going to see in Mercs all the time.
I can see that. That sounds great. Unit of Nomads.
It's just a unit of Nomads. 10 Nomads.
So I think that I'm not necessarily sure within the faction of Mercenaries what you're going to see, but I think at least in Cygnar-wise, you're going to be seeing a lot of the Thorn Gun Mages on the table. They bring something really different in the fact that they can shoot out fire, and they have 2 shots on their guns, which they can do. They can do a special action to make it 1 shot instead. That's a power 14, which I think is pretty powerful in this day and age, because you can either do 10 power 10 shots, or you can combine them together to 1 power 14 to really bust out some extra damage, especially when you're looking with Haley 1. Like, hey, you get a power 14, then you can do another power 10, or you can do 3 power 10s. So that's kind of my cheat around too, because I really haven't seen too much with Mercenaries yet.
So to make sure that I understand you correctly, you decided that for what you're going to see most often in a Mercenary list is what you're going to see in a Cygnar list?
I mean, technically, I mean, you're not going to see nearly as many Mercenaries in Cygnar anymore. But, I mean,
I think we're going back to the unbiased review of Fox News here.
Yeah, dude, fair and balanced and unbiased. That is my corner points.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
So we ran a lot longer on this one by a good couple minutes. So we're going to wrap it up right now. So we just did all the Warmachine ones. Next time when you guys hear us, we will be doing the Hordes review on what we think the units are. So below and either on Facebook or on YouTube, let us know what your thoughts are. If we picked well, if we didn't pick well, what you guys think are going to be units you're going to see very much within your faction.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear people's thoughts on it. Like, you know, don't feel free to tell us we're horribly, horribly wrong, because we probably are. But what are your thoughts? What is going to be the faction that you're always putting in your list?
And make sure you back up your ideas with facts that we can look over and go back and research. Also, if you enjoyed this podcast and you like hearing information like this, please remember to like, subscribe, and follow us, and check out some of the other information we do, such as hobby content and battle reports.
All right, guys. Have a great night.